The African Podcast and Voice Awards, the winners, the latest from our daily newsletter at podnews.net.
Hi, my name is Oscar Kwame.
My name is Eli Mwendo.
And we are mantalk.ke. We are shocked.
When we started this podcast, we didn't think people would be that receptive to conversations that are vulnerable from African men.
So it is with great humility that we accept this award. Yes. Thank you again, and love from Nairobi.
The winners of the African Podcast and Voice Awards were announced in a virtual ceremony. You just heard the Podcast of the Year, mantalk.ke, with Eli Mwenda and Oscar Kwame Mbabu. The Australian Podcast Awards has extended its deadline to Monday, October the 3rd. The day after is Podcast Day 24 in Sydney. If you'd like to be there, Pod N 1215 will get you a good discount. Spotify's podcaster dashboard seems to be missing data from September the 23rd and September the 24th. According to a number of podcasters, Rivet 360 shares what they learnt from taking video and transcripts of a recent podcast and sharing that multimedia further. Elwood Jones, the subject of Season 4 of the Wondery and Cincinnati Enquirer podcast Accused, is to learn if he deserves a new trial. The podcast highlighted inaccuracies presented in the original trial and gaps in the investigation. Lou Player is an open-source audio sound player and editor. We link to that today. Also, Audacity version 3.2 is now out, adding real-time effects, VST3 support, and support for Apple Silicon. And the Zoom R12 multitrack Porter Studio has been released. In People News, BBC presenters Jane Garvey and Fee Glover are to join Times Radio from October the 10th. They had hosted, fortunately, since 2017, one of the most popular podcasts from the BBC. They're to present Afternoon Drive on the station as well as a new podcast. And Manuela Bedoya has finished up at LWC Studios, where she was marketing lead. It's a Monday, so time for some tech stuff. Open Podcast Analytics prefix service OP3 has added trailing wildcards to its API to make life a little bit easier. The project has also added a full privacy policy. Some OP3 visualization tools are being worked on by Dave Jones, James Potter and others. An open user agent list including bots is available from OPORG. We link to that today from our show notes and our newsletter at podnews.net. And we also link to our filtered log file downloads from September the 23rd for comparison purposes. WNYC appears to be switching its shows to use FeedBurner, and the holy grail of transcription is how Whisper is described in a Twitter thread showing how to use it. It's a free transcription tool from OpenAI. And in podcast news, ICYMI this week, in case you missed it, looks at Serial, whether it really did free Adnan Syed, and whether Serial and the New York Times are ignoring journalistic responsibility on its reporting. And On the Media also looks at Serial. Rabia Chowdhury was the person who originally brought Syed's story to Sarah Koenig, and she speaks about the limits of that podcast investigation and the work of her own podcast, Undisclosed. And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe, we're at podnews.net.